People are talking about a number of changes in learning and development because of changes that are happening in policing. I think we're seeing a changing society, so the nature of crime, the nature of vulnerability, the nature of risk is changing. We can think of things like cybercrime, child sexual exploitation, increased vulnerability of particular groups, mental health. These all require new or different or enhanced skills from police, and therefore that has a knock-on effect into training, learning and development.
Well, I got really interested and involved in this programme from a starting point of really, policing is an incredibly challenging times. It's almost cliche to say that, but the complexity of events around the police service is ever increasing. The challenges facing policing, the demands on restricted resources are ever increasing. We have excitedly got a policing vision which sets out how the police service needs to change, how it needs to modernise by 2025 if it is to continue to serve the public. A massive strand of that activity has got to focus on the workforce. Policing is a people business, and actually making sure that the officers and staff in policing are properly equipped, are capable, have the capacity to actually deal with that complexity is really important.
So what we know, I suppose, is that there is an increase in policing having to deal with vulnerability and complex vulnerability, whether that's around safeguarding, and that can be obviously around mental health. We know that policing is increasingly drawn into that space, whether that's because of the reshaping of public services more generally or for other reasons. So that's, I think, one area. We know that there has been a really fundamental shift in the, I suppose, in the digitalisation of crime, otherwise known as cybercrime, and the need for police officers to have the skills and experience and knowledge to deal with that challenge. I think we also know that policing is increasingly expected to work alongside other professions, almost all of whom, I think all of whom are degree professions.
There are lots of changes that need to happen now that the College of Policing has approved a whole new entry system for recruit officers. The police educational framework, the qualifications framework, uplifts the qualifications for police officers, giving them the requirement that they need a degree, university degree. Now, that's a different approach that also enables the college and policing generally to begin to absorb the academic knowledge that has accumulated over the last 40 years into the learning and development of police officers per se. So it's a way of merging kind of thinking, creative thinking, reflexivity into the police service itself. It is completely new, and that means that an uplift across the board in terms of the way we think about learning, the way we understand learning, and the way that we enable police officers and staff across the country to learn differently.
So PEQF is the Police Education and Qualification Framework. What does it mean for learning and development? For me, I think it signals a professionalisation of learning and development. It also, for me, signals the fact that we should be working with external partners. I think the other thing that it signals for me, and something that I've been working on within my region, is we need to build everything on an evidence-based practice. So one of the things that I'm working hard on is making sure that when we deliver learning, that it's not just based on that individual's whim or their feeling of how it should be done, but it's actually based on empirical evidence and things that we know work within policing.
If I think about what the Transformation 2025 and the implications that the PEQF have for police learning and development, I think it's about us recognising that learning and development isn't just about that training intervention that happens in a classroom with a group of people. It's about actually bringing some of the, ironically, the evidence base around learning into the way that we develop and support people, because the aspirations of Transformation 2025 are only going to be met if we embrace that much wider understanding of what learning development could mean and move away from it being a trainer-led intervention with somebody at the front of the room.
Well, L&D, well obviously L&D means learning and development. Training, I suppose we do train. We do train people to personal safety training, so there are certain things, but an L&D department is about facilitating learning. So it's a lot more, when you think of training, although our training might be sort of rough and tumble out on, you know, a green space, learning and development is about how we facilitate learning for our organisation. And how we facilitate that, it could be through the curation of lots of information onto an online site. It could be, I mean, we do a fair bit of learning onto Moodle sites, so it's e-learning, but we do videos, a bit like this, to send a message. We have coaches out in the workplace and assessment. And if you follow a model, there's the model, isn't there, the 70-20-10 model that says most learning happens in the workplace. So it is about moving learning, you know, out of that classroom, and that when you hear the word training, you think of a classroom, out into the workplace more. So I think it's about, you know, I think we're already doing it, and a lot of us are doing it, but it's about making that transition a little bit more.
I think when people describe L&D being overloaded, I think for me, it's training is overloaded, because what we're very good at is having a list of courses and topics that need to be trained that only are filtered through that training delivery lens. Whereas if we approach a wider learning and development approach, we often can recognise that some of the stuff is stuff that people know already. Some of it's around how it's applied in the workplace. And so we need to be more creative and innovative about our understanding of what a training need actually is. If it's knowledge, there is a school of thought that says one can read that. If it's about application, then that learning needs to happen in the environment in which the skill is being applied. So it comes back to having effective supervision and support in the workplace to actually test and try things out, and then to reflect on how it went. It's a complete departure from the model that we've got now, hence overloaded.
One of the aspects of this project in terms of thinking about good practice is to begin to look across the country to see who's developing what kind of mechanisms, courses, ways of working that other units and other forces might benefit from. What happens now is that learning and development people, folks, personnel, hear about something, and then they all travel up and visit that particular force. The benefits of this project is to bring those developments and practice together so that you have access to it, and enables a different kind of conversation, hopefully will save time and money, and then also promote best practice because it brings it together in a place where people can access it.
This is a 2-year project, and it's an action research project. So what we want to do is work with the 43 forces and learn about what's happening in L&D, where the good innovations are, where perhaps staff feel that it would be good to develop change, and then think about how we actually mobilise and implement that change, and then do some research to look at how much progress has been made over those 2 years.
So this project hopefully will help L&D departments understand how they need to maybe restructure for the future. Maybe some of the roles will change. Maybe we'll need to have a different skills level. You know, we'll have to do slightly different things. And so by working with this project, I hope that will help us to sort of evolve what that new L&D department will look like.